Hey folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Bergeron.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Tornado Tony Pennycast.
And second, Tom Pedro with you. Ready to go.
Well, we've been short-staffed at my job for about the past 6 months now. So now we get vacation time, but every time we do, somebody's, short-staffed. So I was out the last 2 days. The other today. So she had to cover everything yesterday. I had to cover everything today. So I was like, well, I'm going to log in early and I'm going to stay on late. Originally tonight, for an appearance, down about 20 minutes from the house, right by where Michael Grant grew up, and I was going to do a Santa gig or whatever. Well, the guy in this event is pissed off at me because I've been taunting him in fantasy football. Come on. It's like when he's doing okay, it's like everything's fine. But when he's not doing okay and people give him shit over it, he blows a gasket. So I've been really fucking with him this year because I have the best team in the league. So he shows up at the guy that does all of our reads. So I hadn't seen him, since the draft. And the one day I was outside of his Dairy Queen where he has the whole draft board posted, and I did a selfie with my team, and I'm like, send it to him, like, pay respect to the best team in the league. No response. So I see him a week later. He's coming in to make the reads. I'm like, yo, what's up? And he looks at me. I'm like, yo, are you really pissed off at me? Fuck you, man. You're an asshole. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I know you're 60-some years old, and I know, whatever. You look like Joe Pesci. But, buddy, you talk to me like that, that's usually how you get a foot so far up your ass that you'll be shining my shoes when you're brushing your teeth. So, when we're working there together, it's more like a nod. That's it. How you doing? What do you need? Do you need stuff to make a wreath? That's all. It's business. So a few months ago, before this all blew up, he had booked me for tonight. The moment you called me an asshole and got pissed off, I scratched right because I figured you don't want me there now, and you ain't paying me, so I ain't there. I get a text message from the guys. Your sleigh break now? And then because I knew he's the guy that runs our tree lot schedule, I said, yo, you took me off the schedule for tonight. He goes, the fuck I am. So I'm waiting for the inevitable blow up tomorrow when I show up at noon. You were supposed to be there. My people were waiting for you. Excuse me? Call me an asshole? And you think I'm going to come work for free? You don't know.
Well then, drama at the tree lot.
Yeah, well, there usually is. We have one guy there that'll fight almost everybody there. I was about to climb up on a truck one time when he was unloading trees and actually beat the shit out of him on top of him.
Well, we had a lot of big combat sports stuff go down over the weekend, and we got some big fights coming up this weekend. The big story is actually now they're talking Artur Beterbiev versus Canelo. Canelo said he would be open to it, supposedly. Before this even fight happens with him and, is it Marcus Brown?
Yes.
Marcus Brown.
I said this, Beterbiev had his last fight, which was his first fight post having COVID, and and that was the one I think, I don't think John Scully could be there because it was in Canada with the travel restrictions, and Beterbiev didn't look that great. He looked a little slower. He looked a little off balance. He still won. He still kept his perfect knockout streak going, but he didn't look like as relentless as he did against Galakstev. He looked pissed.
He looked pissed off and frustrated a little bit.
How calculating right now.
And he just kind of let a lot of punches through, and then all of a sudden he turned it on, and it was lights out. So, he's got two different gears we saw in that fight. So, it's going to depend on...
he's a very aggressive fighter.
Jesus Christ. How many people are going to get injured on the damn fucking
he's right on
Chargers? Jesus. Good thing I don't have money on that.
He reminds me a lot of Rock, where he's right on top. He puts you down. He doesn't give you a moment to breathe, and he just overwhelms you like a buzzsaw. And that last fight, like I said, he didn't look good. He looked like he got hit with some shots. And you know how, like, Canelo right now is the cash cow of the sport, where he is going to see something, and they're not going to take a fight unless they're like, yeah, this is a winnable fight. Like, when he fought Kovalev a couple years ago, it's like, whoa, he's moving up to light heavyweight. He's fighting Kovalev, routinely seen as a killer and all that. It's like, you know what? He knew that he just had to get him in the deeper waters, and he was going to drown him because Kovalev isn't what he used to be. Could he be looking at that and the Canelo management saying, you know what, Beterbiev is good, and he's got that glistening streak record, but he's there for the taking.
Right.
And I'm thinking that's what they're thinking. Good point.
And we're going to talk a little bit more boxing later. A lot of boxing in about 20 minutes or so when we talk to John Cameron. I just got his book the other day. I ordered it through Amazon. And his book is Redemption, The Life of Rocky Marciano. He's working on Volume 2 right now, but this is just Volume 1. And the only thing I'm going to have to give him shit about, playfully, is there's no page number, so I can't tell you what starts where or anything like that, or reference it by page number. And that could be a printing thing, so you can't knock them unless we confirm that maybe he left them out. Maybe that's a British thing, I don't know. But no, he's a good dude, and I've talked to him before, and he just loves Rocky. He really does. I mean, anybody that would devote this much time and effort to this kind of a material work in 2 volumes obviously loves Rocky. And I actually was very glad that we were able to save the interviews that we did with Rocky's people there that we had on Blog Talk Radio.
Yeah, we had a lot of them. I mean, how many times did we have Nikki Sylvester? Twice? Nikki
we had twice, and not long before he died, actually, was the second time.
Yeah. Duval once.
He got a little controversial at the end too, because he was talking about the darkies down at the rec center. They love him, he said. I was like, whoa, buddy. Yeah, he was funny. He was hilarious. But just classic stuff. And the other one was, of course, Goody Petronelli.
Oh yeah, we had Goody before he died.
That was kind of in our earlier days, so it wasn't that great of a recording, but
right. Well, you figure, I mean, Goody died 2012, right around the same time Angelo Dundee died. I think they died like 6 weeks apart from each other. So you figure, I mean, that was relatively early in our days. How many times do we have Dennis on? He was the first one we got.
Too many. No. I haven't talked to him in forever. I gotta find out if he's still alive.
I don't even see, he's not even on Facebook much anymore.
Yeah. Anyway.
He fell off the face of the earth.
We also had Lou Duva talk a little bit about Rocky.
Yep.
But one of my favorite quotes from Goody was when he found out about Rocky's death, he said, you could have knocked me over with a feather. And that's how much it hit him. And, it's kind of ironic that I didn't even go out of my way to get these interviews back to back of a guy who's kind of climbing up to the Rocky mark of 49-0. He got pushed on me basically by his promoter. Hey, anybody want interviews? So I said, oh yeah, I'll take one. And then next week, John Cameron just happens to be ready to be lined up. So, Rocky.
I remember when I first got in touch with Dennis 12 years ago. It was because I was going up to that game at Fenway that we ended up meeting at. And I wanted a Marciano shirt to wear, me and my dad. And like I said, I saw that shirt online. I was like, well, I better make sure it's going to get shipped in time. And I made the phone call and I was like, yeah, I'm Rocky's nephew. You're what? And I said, well, this is like, all the communication was via email. So I said, I'm running downstairs and taking all pictures of the memorabilia I got, the Marciano walkout program, some of the newspaper articles, the bottle of Marciano beer that I have, the ticket stub, all that. And when I'm sending it to him, like, he's responding within a minute. He's like, whoa. He's like, and we started talking more and more. And then that's like said, he's like, you know anybody that does any web design? I need somebody to help do web design. I'm like, funny, yeah, I do. And the guy's in the town next to you. And then he's like, you guys do interviews? We're like, yeah. He goes, man, would you like to interview Lou Duva? I'm like, oh, yeah. Hey, how about Rocky's boyhood friend, Nicky Sylvester? Yeah. Yeah. We want to talk to.
Yeah, Lou was great. But anyway, yeah, we got John Cameron coming up shortly. We definitely have to talk about the biggest news in MMA this week and in a long time. The co-main event of
Shouldn't even I know about it.
Yeah, the co-main event of UFC 269. It was such a rare event, an occurrence, that in the FanDuel lineups, only 3% of the entire field picked her at all to put on their cards. And they were probably all related to her. Or directly connected to her camp and knew something we didn't.
My mom, got my boyfriend,
She just basically demolished Amanda Nunes. And after the fight, when they interviewed Amanda, I almost got the sense that it was like the exact same thing that happened to Anderson Silva, when he lost for the first time after that ridiculous long streak, and he lost the belt, and it was like he was talking about the pressure of it, and how it was getting to him, and it looked like Amanda just basically just had a bad night and like was going in knowing she was going to lose that fight, and Juliana, the whole time leading up to that fight, was saying that was what was happening. Like that was why she was dodging the fight to begin with, because she knew she needed to work on things, like she said after the fight, and Juliana was better in some areas, and she actually ended up with a hell of a black eye on the way to getting that win, but she walked through a lot and just was unstoppable. And the other interesting thing was the fact that Rose Namajunas was out in the crowd, like really excited about that win. And we know Rose, before her big fight, was saying, "You're the best in the world. You're the best in the world." And it kind of was one of those examples of, half of this shit is mental, if you really think about it. If you can convince yourself that not only you're the best in the world, but you can beat anybody, and then you can put the work in to make that happen because you're convinced of that. I mean, there's really no stopping you. Juliana Pena was pretty much an average fighter before this happened, and now she's on top of the freaking world. But then she's going to see the other side
right,
of it.
But
so we'll see how she handles that,
which is
the pressure of keeping the belt.
Just think about the mental stuff. When Amanda was landing those good shots, knocked Juliana down twice in the first one, but she got up. Most people don't. Everyone Amanda had fought didn't get up from that. So you talk about the mental thing.
Yeah.
Maybe Amanda just figured it was, and I admit I didn't really see much of a chance for Juliana, but maybe Amanda was slack on her cardio. That it's going to be, maybe she was complacent because she was, before the fight, she was talking about signing women from other organizations, get Cyborg back, get Kayla Harrison there.
Yep.
And maybe she figured it would be a quick fight, and all of a sudden in the second round, she's gassed, and she just, because it didn't seem that choke was really a killer. But Amanda, I think, was just mentally beat.
Yeah.
With me.
She was done. The other thing was that, the Cyborg thing was kind of funny you mentioned her, because Cyborg actually posted on Facebook a picture of like a call coming in from Dana White on her cell phone. And, she actually said it was a joke. But she confirmed, she's very happy in Bellator. She said, why would I take a pay cut to come back to the UFC? So, obviously they're taking good care of her financially. So that fight's not happening. Not that it, would have a better chance of happening because she lost the title, but anyway, it was a great fight, and I wish I had at least thought of the possibility of it happening. And every now and then I realized that you have to pick like the lowest priced fighters on the FanDuel lineups. I did actually, double my money on one of the cards. I picked right, and I didn't involve that fight, but it was like one of those things. That was one of the quickest finishes, and you had to have it in the lineup. But my foresight on Charles Oliveira, I was smart enough to pick the opposite guy there in a couple lineups, even though it didn't help me. But Charles Oliveira, of course, helped me out with his stoppage, even though it was a little bit later in the fight than what gives you the point. But like I said, I also predicted Tai Tuivasa was always good for a knockout, and boy, he delivered. Second round, 26 seconds in. Had a little difficulty with Augusto Sakai, but is what it is. And then Bruno Silva, I had him in my winning card. He was the MVP, so the first round knockout helped there. Jordan Wright didn't really have much to give there. But the one that kind of screwed me over was Erin Blanchfield. She came out of nowhere and beat Miranda Maverick. So, she was very cheap too, so you pretty much had to have her or Juliana Pena. And since only 3% of the people had Juliana Pena, they were all pretty much in the top 10 if they had her in the right spot. And then, of course, Ryan Hall, I thought had no chance in the world. I picked Derek Minner on a couple cards, and that was a unanimous decision, so really there wasn't that much points, and Ryan won. So, more power to him. He's a very crafty jiu-jitsu guy, but I guess what really screwed him in the last fight was he tried to do the rolling up to the submission too many times, and he got clubbed in the head. But this time he was smarter about everything, and he did a lot of ground control stuff, and locked up Minner in a pretzel a few times, and Minner had his moments, but he just was not aggressive enough. And he couldn't be after a while, because you think about how much of a struggle that is to get out of that stuff. This guy's such an expert in it. And there was one point where they were in what they call the 50-50 position, and Joe Rogan had to say, well, this guy does run a gym called the 50-50, and that's his position. So anyway, that was a crazy fight. And then we also had Dominick Cruz beating Pedro Munoz by unanimous decision. I had him on one good card. And then Josh Emmett over Dan Ige by unanimous decision. Sean O'Malley, of course, I knew he was going to win. It was pretty likely he was going to knock out Raulian Paiva. But that was first rounder, 4 minutes and 42 seconds in. But the big upset for me was Kai Kara France over Cody Garbrandt. I really thought that Cody was going to pull it together for this one. But Kai was patient, and if it wasn't for the Juliana Pena upset, this would have been upset of the night, I would think. And Kara France got a big bonus out of this one. They did like a whole YouTube video on it. It was cool. But it was first round knockout.
Now the question is Cody's chin shot, or did he just get caught? That's the question.
Well, it's one of those things, like, we can talk about this in the boxing world too. Like, there's certain people that once they've been knocked out once or twice in big fights, and it's like knockout, like not coming back for the 10 count or the 20 count, they're out. Like, it's going to take a while to revive them type of knockout. They have like a button. You hit the button, and it's like, boom, instant knockout now.
It's like you're getting a soft head.
Yeah.
Those are his exact terms.
Good way to work at.
I think Garbrandt should retire,
and
actually.
Example is Rule Jones.
He's already got the connection to the...
The first time he got knocked out, it was like after that. It's been down how many times?
Yeah. He's already got the connection to the commentary gig, and it reminds me a lot of Tyron Woodley, who's actually fighting pretty soon here with Jake Paul. But Tyron Woodley with the whole his last few fights in the UFC where, he lost the title, and he came out that night like he just woke up from a bad dream. And he had that look about him in his corner before the fight even started when he lost his belt. And it just was like the life had been drained out of him. And I don't know if it was intimidation, lack of preparation, or, he really did have a bad night of trying to sleep. But he just, had no confidence, no strength, no ability. Suddenly he just was the worst fighter in the world in that fight. And he never recovered from that. He never regained his confidence. And I think that's what happened to Cody. He never really got on enough of a roll to overcome all of his losses. And, he seems like he puts it together, and then when he gets aggressive, he puts his hands down by his chest and not even one hand up to block the next shot coming. And so, a couple rings to the chin, and he's done. And so Kai France, he was very patient, and he got hit a couple good times, but just very smart fighting there, and perfect execution, and just made it tough for the referee not to step in. And then we had Jeff Neal over Santiago Ponzinibbio. That was a split decision. I didn't really get to see much of that. It was one of those points where my free feed blew out. But the main event was my favorite, rear naked choke by Charles Oliveira over Dustin Poirier, and it was a war. It was almost 3 full rounds there. Well, 1 minute and 2 seconds into round 3. But Charles Oliveira just basically wore him down. Poirier actually stunned him 2 or 3 times with some punches. But Oliveira is crafty. He knows when to get his distance. He knows how to get out of those situations, and he knows how to shake the cobwebs off. And the only thing that I worry about with Gaethje being the next guy that's coming at him is, does he have a little bit more power in those exchanges than Poirier can put together? I don't know. Poirier is just, I think, just a couple steps behind Oliveira. With different preparation, knowing what he knows now, he might be able to beat him in a rematch. But I don't think that's the way the UFC is going to work on this one. I think they're going to want to throw Oliveira right in with Gaethje. And that one is going to be a big first round. That's all I'm going to say. But Oliveira rose to the occasion, just like I said. He was a good bet. I don't know how much you would have won if you bet on him. But I do know that somebody bet about $361,000 on Dustin Poirier to lose. So that was a bad one. Or no, it was Amanda Nunes. That was Amanda Nunes. Somebody bet $316,000 on her. Ridiculous. Because, when you got the favorite, you have to bet a lot of money to win a little bit. So, that's ridiculous. Anyway. So we're going to get John Cameron on the phone. We're going to do a messenger call. Hopefully that works. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulty trying that with Francois overseas.
Yeah.
Both, let's see, we need some dialing music. Old David Letterman show. We got a window popping up, but nothing's happening. Anyway, while we're waiting for all that stuff, we got another fight night coming up this weekend. For me to put some lineups together on, and it's Derek Lewis versus Chris Dalkas at heavyweight, the main event. And I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Dalkas. Derek Lewis really hasn't impressed me much lately, and I know he's got a bad knee, and Dalkas likes to fight long, a lot of kicks, and a lot of straight punches, and Derek's got to get close to knock you out. So I'm gonna say Dalkas on that one. And then very interesting matchup in the co-main event: Stephen Thompson versus Blau Mohammed. Thompson, Mr. Wonder Boy, or the Wonder Boy, whatever they call him. And he's heavy karate style, but he's adjusted a little bit as he's gone along. 16-5-1 is his record. Blau Mohammed 19-3. Okay. We got John. Is John with us? Still waiting. There he is. There's the dial. Yep. So we'll continue the UFC Fight Night a little bit later. We might be waking him up like we did both of them. Messenger rings a lot. Alright. We'll give him a minute. I'll run through the rest of this list here. Amanda Nunes is also on this card, 10-1-1, fighting Angela Hill, who's 13-10. And I don't know where those 10-1-1 fights came. But Angela's been pretty much in the UFC her entire career almost. So, long haul. Anyway, it's going to be a tough one. Rafael Asencio, 27-8, fighting Ricky Simon, who's 18-3. Diego Ferreira is 17-4, fighting Matus Gamrot, who's 19-1. And boy, this one could be a fight of the night. Just on paper, the way it looks. I'd be surprised these guys haven't fought each other before. But Cub Swanson versus Darren the Damage Elkins. Darren Elkins is about as famous for bleeding as he is for fighting. He has a lot of damage that is done to himself, but he also does to other opponents. Sometimes, the way he fights through the blood. It's a very intimidating style, believe it or not. But he's just a warrior. He's just a crazy. Everybody loves to see him fight, I think. Win or lose. And really ends early, unless it's him winning. But anyway, 26-9 is his record. Cub Swanson comes in 27-12. He's had a couple difficult fights. I love to put him in my lineups, just for the fact that. He's had all that experience. He knows about everything there is to know about the sport. This is one of those fights I'd expect to go the distance. Be ugly. I don't know if that's going to be in my lineup, either guy. But we got Dustin Stoltzfus, also on the card, 13-3, fighting Gerald Mearshart, 33-14. Raoni Barcelos, 16-2, fighting Victor Henry, 21-5. Justin Taffa, 4-3, fighting Harry Hunsucker, who's 7-4. And Sajara Eubank, 7-6, fighting Melissa Gatto, 7-0-2. They have 2 draws. In that young of a career, 2 draws. Charles Jourdain also on the card. He's 11-4-1, fighting Andre Ewell, who's 17-8. Third fight of the night, Raquel Pennington, 12-8, fighting Macy Chason, who is 7-1. Dontail Mays in the second fight of the night, 8-4, fighting Josh Parisian, who is 14-4. And first fight of the night, Jordan Levitt, 8-1, fighting Matt Sales, who's 8-3. There was another Parisian in MMA, wasn't there? Famous one? Tom? Caro Parisian.
Uh,
Remember him?
oh yeah, that goes way back. Yeah.
I want to say we actually had him on the show one time, but I might be mistaken. I don't know. I might be imagining stuff.
Yeah, he was mainly a judo guy.
I think we did.
He,
Somehow we got him to.
Pretty good judo.
I think we got him to Ken Pavia. We had him on once. But yeah, that was one of those moments in our show where I was just like, wow, these guys really do have accessible lives to regular people like us doing podcasts. Anyway, let's redial Mr. Cameron. Alright. We tried. Give it a minute. We'll see if he responds on Messenger with a message. And it will come. We got a little time left in the show. Alrighty. So, let's go to boxing, and we're going to talk about last weekend first. And you guys are going to be surprised because I actually watched a lot of rounds of boxing the same day that there was UFC on.
A lot on last week.
Yeah. I watched Nonito Donaire demolish Raymart Caballo. That was pretty impressive. He definitely looks on point. He got a little bit of a rough start, but just makes the adjustments real quick, and just gets in there, gets close, and bangs people out these days. I just don't know what he's doing physically, but I mean, it's like he's tapped into the fountain of youth, the guy. Unreal. I'd like to know what his regime is, but it's one of his most impressive wins there so far. We also had the nephew, I believe, of Nigel, Connor Ben, beating Chris Algieri, and starting to really pull up his pants and act like a big boy. He's calling out all the big boys in the division. All the big names, I should say.
Nephew or his son?
I think it's a nephew.
And I'm not 100% sure.
Could be a son.
Like I said, I was working last week till about 5 o'clock, so I texted my dad, I'm like, no. And he's like, shit, I don't want to use that app again. I'm like, oh, damn it. So by the time I got home and I went to put that broadcast on, they were interviewing him. I'm like, well, who won this one?
Yeah. And then the big one, Vasily Lomachenko and Richard Comey. That was, kind of a little bit of a back and forth the first couple rounds, but it ended up just being a walk for Lomachenko, and I really wasn't impressed, honestly.
Like I said, I didn't get to see the whole fight. I saw parts later. Like, trying to stay awake for that one. Lomachenko's a guy that he always starts, like, he has like a matrix type of weapon, and he takes that first round or two to figure it out, and the mistake he made against Teofimo Lopez, and maybe that shoulder legit, because I mean he looked really sharp in this one, but maybe he took too long against Lopez to try to figure out what he wanted to do. This one, after like that slow, close first or second round, he started bringing it to Richard Comey. And like I said, I've watched Comey. I've seen him. I actually sat with one of his fights. And he's a dude, I mean, he's no cheap date for anybody. And, Lomachenko was taking it to him. Now, here's the thing. Lomachenko 2 times when he had hurt was yelling at Comey's corner to stop the fight. I mean, it's, a pathetic thing to do, maybe. George Foreman used to do it a lot. But, you're fighting a guy that's a dangerous puncher. You're saying, the floor thing, stop the fight. This guy could wing one out of nowhere and take on the button. Or you're letting the guy recover. So Tony went, 5 seconds after that first time he did that. I mean, I don't know how wise that was.
Yeah, and I think with Comey, because I was watching it, Comey was, it almost hurt his pride in some way. I mean, it gave him the time to recoup, and he was able to, just keep going. And I was flashing back on that sometimes, that sometimes a fighter, well, I hate to use a Rocky movie analogy, but Rocky, I ain't going to go down no more. But I remember that happened in the 90s with, you remember a heavyweight, Alex Stewart.
Of course.
And he was knocked down against Foreman a couple times, because he had a few knockouts going, but I remember when Michael Moore knocked him out, but he was able to, with Foreman, it was almost like he said, no more thing. No, I am not being knocked out. And he came back and made it a fight. And he didn't win.
He busted Foreman up pretty good, though. He bloodied him up. And
right.
Majority decision. I remember that.
Right.
You're right. Foreman knocked, because the guy, he would usually beat, the lesser grade fighters, but he usually get not just Cruz, but knocked out against the higher grade. So it's like, he lost Holyfield the first time, was a knockout. Now, went to, and it wasn't that good of a fight, it was a decision. Mike Tyson knocked him out in 1 round. Michael knocked him out, I think, 4 rounds. But Stewart was the guy that he was either knocked you out, get knocked out. And when he fought Foreman, you're right, Foreman had him down. This is going to be, typical Foreman fight. Foreman's, point at him, stop the fight. Stewart fought back hard. And I remember, when it was over, Foreman's face was, was broadcast back.
Right. And that's what we again. That I think with Comey, I mean, it not only gave him a chance to recruit, but, damn you, you're not the referee. I'm not a baby. I'm a fighter. Let's go. I mean, and Lomo couldn't do it. She kept going while he had it out. But it went.
By the way, Tony, you watching football? By any chance tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Did you see the knockout that happened in the first minute? It seemed like.
I didn't. That's what I was on. That's what I was in the shower.
Oh my God! So the guy actually, I think he got knocked out by the back of his helmet hitting the turf, because it didn't look like he took a helmet-to-helmet hit or anything. But he had the catch going down, and then when he hit the ground and it was out, as soon as his head hit the ground and he got knocked out, he dropped the ball. But it would have been a touchdown on 4th down. And I had him on 3 of my damn lineups tonight, so I'm pissed. But one of them's still winning with the 0. Winning some money. Anyway, this is a wild one.
So, right now, I'm in the that are wrong with all the weekly. You got to pick all the games and all that. No point spreads or none of that. And right now, I'm tied for 3rd place, and I'm only 2 out, 2nd place. Is there a chance I could, get into that cumulatively? Possible. Now, my fantasy league, I have a bye this week. Oh, I'm not even looking at my team. I'm just kind of seeing who else is playing and hoping the one guy gets knocked out, so I can taunt him. And then next week, I'm semi, so I'll play the lowest ranked team, which will either be 4 or 5 or 6 that from this week. And if I win, guaranteed in the finals $400. and then if I make it to the finals and I win the finals, I'm guaranteed $1,000. Now here's the funny thing: the guy that earlier is mad at, and a few weeks ago when I saw him, he said, I'm starting my own league, and I'm like, but this already is your league, so you're leaving your own league to start your own league. I'm like, okay, that makes no sense. Now, if I win and he throws me out of his league, and pay me, that's all he gave a shit about. But now, how do you get the trophy back from me?
Yeah.
Give me the trophy if I win. How do you get it back next year? You're gonna come take it from me? Come get it. Get it. I dare you.
Well, it's going to be an interesting one this weekend for boxing. We've got the big fight at light heavyweight. Artur Beterbiev fighting Marcus Brown. Marcus Brown has fought some tough guys, but not nearly the amount of straight killers that Artur Beterbiev has faced. Just a lot of zeros. Callum Johnson, 17-0.
Great killer that Artur Beterbiev is.
Yeah. He beat, let's see, Adam Danes was the last fight. That was a tough one. He had a little bit of awkward style for Beterbiev, but it didn't look like he was ever really hurt. His style was a little bit different, and Danes was landing some decent shots, but just didn't have the cardio to hang, and just couldn't defend the onslaught, and eventually got TKO'd. Before that, it was 17-0 Alexander Gvozdyk, went down by TKO. And then Kalajdzic is the common opponent.
That one, that was pretty brutal.
If we want to do common opponent math, I watched this one. I remember this one. This was Kalajdzic looked all fancy and dolled up for the fight and was doing a dance before the thing, acting like he was all that, and then boom, he was laid out. So that was an impressive one for me. That's when I first really saw Beterbiev as big time guy that I needed to keep an eye on. And before that, it was Callum Johnson, 17-0. Before that, Enrico Colling, 23-1. We'll talk about common opponent. Kalajdzic fought Brown a few years before he fought Beterbiev, and it was a split decision, and it was his first loss. Kalajdzic's first loss, and came close to being Brown's first loss if it went the other way. So very mixed decision, but you can never do common opponent math. In some cases, it just doesn't calculate. It doesn't mean anything in a lot of situations. But like I said last week, I did it with the main event, and it did work there. Jim Miller was the common opponent, and what happened? What happened in that result? I think he got submitted by Oliveira, and it was a decision for Poirier. So there you have it. That was a decision. It wasn't a decision win. It was a submission win for Oliveira. Same result as Jim Miller, believe it or not. So, wow. Sometimes it works, but it's not an exact formula. Anyway, I believe Artur Beterbiev is going to be able to weather this early storm that Brown's going to bring. I think it's going to be a little bit more competitive than the last fight that Beterbiev had, but I also think that he's going to be making some changes to his defense after that last fight, so we might see a little different type of patience from him, because I think that's what really made it tough for him last time, is he's so used to just being physically dominant, and this guy was very crafty, and like I said, he had a very different style. He punched up from a different angle, and he just was very good with his jab. And Beterbiev just kind of he wasn't really losing a lot of rounds, but he just really didn't know how to do it, what to do with it early on, and then he just kind of found the magic spot, started walking forward, and, just stringing punches together and using his power, and he just has very deceptive power, and he does have that Rocky IV, I'm not a machine type of look in his eyes once he gets deep into a fight. And I don't know what it's got to be like for opponents to see that in his eyes, but he is like that typical, unbeatable Russian that you can never just imagine anybody being dominant against. I think it was like Dean's just kind of got lucky that he had enough experience and his style was good enough to hang for a little while, more than he was just a little bit better early on. It was just Beterbiev kind of being a slow starter and just not knowing what to do with a different type of guy that he'd never faced before. But anyway, I'm definitely going to be tuning into that one. We got a couple other ones worth mentioning. A big weekend. So we got a Jesus fight somewhere. Man. That is a name. I don't know who he's fighting, but over in Argentina. How about this guy's name? Super middleweight. Juan Jorge Leandro Capozuco. It's 1-0. 4 names and not one of them Jesus. He's in South America. Somebody needs to talk to his parents. He never got some memo on that. I don't know who these people are, but it's in Terol, France here. We got a super lightweight title fight. Bastien Balesta, 23-0-1, fighting Maxime Devignon, who is 9-1 for the vacant EBU European Union super lightweight title. Nothing else really. Germany got a couple fights. Some ones. Michael Eifert at light heavyweight, 8-1, fighting Nils Schmidt, 20-0. The vacant Germany BDB light heavyweight title. BDB is what? Bad Dude Brigade, I guess. Cruiserweights, Roman Fress, 14-0, fighting Adam Gadaju, who is 20-15. Really good stuff. You always put the good stuff at the bottom. Ooh. There's a guy who's 0-15 in the main event in Sicilia, Italy. Saturday. His opponent is only 2-6. Here's one heavyweight fight over in Kazakhstan on Saturday. Ivan Daichko, he is 10-0, fighting Alexander Ustinov, who is 36-5-1. Also a decent one here. Welterweight. Zankosh Turarov, I don't know who the 24 people he beat were, but he's 24-0, fighting Abdul Monem Saeed, who is 22-1-1. We got fights in Mexico. Vacant WBC Faker Box welterweight title. Luis Enrique Montelongo, 15-9, fighting Julio Luna Avila, who is 17-0-2. We got a Guillermo at light heavyweight. Guillermo Ruben Andino, 15-6, fighting Radovoj Kalajdzic, who we were just talking about. 25-2. And he's fighting the same weekend. If he wins, he'll probably call out the winner of the other one for a rematch. Here's a guy he doesn't know. He doesn't know if he's going to be a fighter, a good fighter, or a bad fighter. He's caught in the middle. Nestor Fernando Garcia. He's in the main event down there in Mexico here. He's got a record of 23-23 with one draw.
Hey, at least it balances out.
Yeah. He's fighting Elio German Rafael, who's 18-4. And unfortunately, Garcia has lost his last 6 fights. All in a row. Wouldn't that be crazy if he won the first 23 and lost the next 23? Oh, and then we have Sinaloa, Mexico. We're gonna have Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. trying to get back in there and mix it up at light heavyweight after the devastating loss there to Anderson Silva. 52-6-1 is his record, fighting David Zagara, who's 34-6. Super bantamweight on that card. Co-main event is for the vacant WBA Continental Super bantamweight title. And we got Kevin Gonzalez, 23-0-1, fighting Antonio Guzman, who is 21-2. And we got a Day Jesus on this card. He's got a tough fight. This is somebody's always got to go, and it's a Jesus fight too. First, somebody's always got to go. Martin Leon Morales. It's at lightweight. He is 12-0. Dozen wins, no losses. Jose De Jesus Guerrero Franco. Now that is a name. 9-0-1. So that's somebody's always got to go in your Jesus fight of the week. How about this one? In Nicaragua. It's not a really, surprising main event for the people, but I just like the names. Super flyweights. Winston Guerrero, 15-0, fighting Wilmer Blas, who is 9-17. Wilmer versus Winston. Sounds like a couple kids from a prep school. Here's one from Ukraine, going to be on ESPN. Denis Barinchek, 15-0, fighting Isa Chaniev, who's 15-3 for the WBO International Lightweight title. And big heavyweight fight here. Vladislav Sarenko, 18-0, fighting Andrei Rudenko, who is 34-5. Has lost 3 of his last 6. But that one's for the WBC Asian Boxing Council heavyweight title. Gotta love that one. It's between 2 Russians. And it's also the WBO Asia Pacific heavyweight title. A lot of tough names to pronounce on that card. I feel bad for the announcer if he's not Russian. And then a fight on DAZN. Joseph Parker, big United Kingdom heavyweight there. He's 29-2, fighting Derek Chisora, 32-11. Co-main event there, 20-0.
That's an interesting fight. I mean,
yep.
Chisora's no cheap date, but you figure Parker's got to be the favorite in that one.
Yeah. Yeah, a young lion versus the old crafty journeyman, basically. And we got somebody's always got to go in the co-main event. Super middleweights Carlos Gongora, 20-0, fighting Laron Richards, who's 15-0 for the IBO World Super Middleweight title. And then we got Jack Cullen, 20-2, with 1 draw, fighting Kevin Lele Sadjo, who is 16-0. The vacant EBU Super Middleweight title. And super featherweights Zelfa Barrett, 26-1, fighting Bruno Tarimo, who's 26-2. And a cruiserweight fight, Jordan Thompson, 11-0, fighting Piotr Bud Zazewski, who is 4-0. Bud Zazewski. Now, anytime I ask for a Budweiser, I'm going to ask for a Bud Zazewski. Throw me a Bud Zazewski, would ya? No, well, it's not my school, but Norwich, Norfolk, United Kingdom is having some fights this weekend. Featherweights in the main event. Ryan Walsh, 26-3-2, fighting Ronnie Clark, who's 21-6-2. No title on the line there. We may have our mismatch of the week on this card. We have a couple candidates. A few. Alright, so here's one. 13-0, Michael Walsh, featherweight, fighting Brian Myrena, who is 10-21-1. That may not be the worst one, though. We have Joe Steed. And he's probably related to Glass Joe from Mike Tyson's podcast. No, he's 7-0, Joe Steed. And fighting Jordan Granum. And if he's fighting people like this, we know why he's 7-0. Jordan Granum is 6-83-3. But it's not as bad as Owen Blunden, his opponent. Owen Blunden is 7-0, fighting Lee Hallett, who has only managed to win one fight to go with 36 losses. And we're going to have to check out that. That's going to be hilarious if his only fight was his first fight. There's one over... the co-main event is a better fight here, but it's showtime. Here's another one over in the United Kingdom. Lewis Ritson, super lightweight, 21-2, fighting Christian Urquieta, who is 24-2, 21 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws. And then lightweights, Ricky Burns, 43-8-1, fighting Emiliano Dominguez, who is 26-9 with 1 draw. And then featherweights, Thomas Patrick Ward, 30-0-1, fighting Leonardo Padilla, who is 20-3. And here's the Jake Paul card. Going to be on Showtime this weekend from Tampa, Florida. Super lightweights in the main event. Somebody's always got to go there. Liam Paro, 21-0, fighting Yomar Alamo. How about that name? Alamo for the win.
Remember the Alamo.
Yeah, 20-0-1 is his record. Incredibly good matchup on paper. I don't know much about either guy. I haven't really seen either fight. But it's a super lightweight fight, and it's the best records of anyone on the card. And of course, we got Amanda Serrano has hitched her train to Jake Paul. She is 41-1-1, still doing the MMA on the side. And she is fighting Miriam Gutierrez here in a boxing match. 14-1 is her record. And she should have no problem. Let's hope Miriam Gutierrez is not watching Juliana Pena film for this fight. We're rooting for Amanda anyway. And we've had her on the show a couple times, and she's a great guest and a very confident young lady. And we've been watching her whole career. I'd love to see what she's been doing, and just throwing it down in 2 sports. It's great things. Cruiserweights, Jaleon Love, 24-3-1, fighting Marcus Oliveira, who is 28-5-1. That's the only other big experienced fighter fight on this card. Now we got Jake Paul, 4-0, fighting Tyron Woodley, 0-1. Jake Paul, 4-0 against very questionable people, really, as far as, first-time boxers. But this is a rematch now because apparently Tommy Fury pulled out due to medical reasons, and the fight will probably not be remade. But this one's happening again, and I'm guaranteeing that there's probably no clause in there that says Tyron can't knock Jake out this time, because Jake has actually said that he's going to give Tyron an extra $500,000 if he does knock him out. So obviously there's something going on there. But the other big fight on this card is the debut of two fighters, Frank Gore and Darren Williams, from different sports, but definitely can provide some entertainment here. Frank is actually still willing to go back to the NFL if he gets a call, but has not gotten the call. They don't really have enough running backs right now. But anyway, probably too late in the season to get him familiar with everything on top of that. But so anyway, he's going to fight. And I'm excited to see that one more than I think I'm excited to see Jake Paul versus Tyron Woodley. It's like we always say on the show, some of the best fighters are probably football players right now. You know, the guys who could have been great fighters, they went to football because that was the popular sport all growing up, you know. So, and as we know from Rocky Marciano, if he had been a little bit better throwing the ball from the catcher's position to second base, he might have been a baseball player instead of a boxer. Never know. Anyway, so that's the Showtime card. Let's see what else we got. Oh, we got the Webster fights this weekend. My dad's old stomping grounds down there where he used to be chief of police. In Webster, Massachusetts, at the town hall, where actually I did see a wrestling match one time with the famous Killer Kowalski in attendance. He was sitting in a folding chair about 50 feet from the ring, looking like a grump, not interacting with really anybody. But he owned the whole league at the time. Wicked old. I don't know how old he was, but I remember my father talking about him, you know. And, you know, the whole ripping the guy's ear off at one point.
Kowalski looked old when he was 20.
Yeah. That's a good point. He really didn't even move much.
He was the one that was responsible for training Triple H.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Legend of the sport. And these guys were like all over the audience. They were one of those type of shows, and you know, they dragged one guy with a fake blood all over his head all through the stands and stuff. And they broke a bunch of tables, of course, and it was funny because, you know, my dad's knows everybody behind the scenes. You know, he's the chief of police, and he's sitting up there in the balcony with, like, you know, state representatives and stuff. And he tells me after the whole thing, like, that the maintenance guy at the place was pissed because nobody told them they were going to be breaking all the tables. So you get the inside information, the home show. But
it was funny, you know. It's like, when you get to know, like, a lot of the guys, like, you know, as they especially like on the small independent cards. Like, I went to one so many years ago, and there was a guy on the card. They called him the Wolfman. I got a big, heavy-set guy, like 300-some pounds, shaved head with crazy brushed-up eyebrows and everything, covered in tattoos. So he's going to match on the card, maybe like for the fifth match. Well, in the second match, something broke in the ring. Wolfman comes out with a big bag of tools and fixes the ring. And then I was talking to them, like, oh yeah, that's Wolfman's ring. You know, he's hard to keep in the ring and store in the ring and, you know, help him get it set up before the matches. And then he goes on there and usually wrestles like a 2-minute match. You know, usually his are really short, but they put him on the card. But his main thing is the ring transportation. And then you have, like, you know, the people that, like, they play the bad guys. Like, I was sitting there at a corner in one of my, like, Italian-looking jet hats, and I'm sitting there, so the bad guys are coming out, and me and my friend, to be funny, cheering for all the heels. And the one guy gets up in the ring, and we're cheering him, and he's like, hey, you people are ridiculous, like this guy in this stupid hat that I'm one of two people cheering for you, buddy. So, I mean, that was funny. The other time, like, we were at, about 20 years ago, we were at a nightclub that I used to go to all the time, was having a women's wrestling card. It was called not the Glow from the 80s, but this was the Gorgeous Ladies of Outrageous Wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a couple buddy mines there, you know, and it was only like 3 rows around each side of the ring, and so we get there, and I get there early enough that I get a front row seat, and now most of the girls that were on the card were basically models. You know, you could tell they really didn't know how to wrestle that well. They weren't highly skilled, but they were enough to put on like a good kind of like show, you know, kind of like a lap dance kind of, you know, wrestling match kind of thing. But the one girl in the match, you could tell she knew what she was doing. So it comes to intermission, they're like, hey, if anybody wants to get a picture with any of the girls, it's like a couple dollars, whatever. And I'm like, I think this girl, first of all, she knows how to wrestle. But second of all, I thought she was the prettiest girl on the card. She may have not been one of the models, but I thought she was, you know, the best looking girl. So I go up for a photo with her, and I'm talking to her a little bit. She's now like a 10-time WWE champion. Mickey James. So if you ever look up Mickey James, I met her when she was like literally first starting out. And I'm sitting next to a guy there, and he has a big straw hat on. And they're like, do you know who that guy is? I'm like, well, I recognize him, but I don't know him. They're like, he used to go to all the local shows in Philadelphia, which is now the 2300 arena that I go to fight at. But he used to be a little bingo hall. They would have these wrestling matches. He would always sit front row with this straw hat, and they called him Hat Guy. And he became like a local celebrity because he wore a straw hat to these matches, and he became Hat Guy. So I go to a local show later up by where I live. My friend's father's fire company was helping putting it on, and he was there, and he got basically booked as like a manager, where he escorted the one heel to the ring, and he was up there and he was yelling at people, and you know, hey referee, what are you doing? Like, oh, and he's got his straw hat on. So I'm talking to him afterwards, and once again, out of character, laughing, but in character was a smart ass, and you know, rude to everybody, and he's rude to my friend's mom, all in character. And I'm like, dude, I sat next to you, this lady was about outrageous wrestling, and you cracked me the fuck up dead too. And you were laughing, we had a drink together, you know? It's crazy how it works.
By the way, I want to interrupt the scheduled broadcast to let you know today is Vinny Paz's birthday, if you did not know.
Oh, I know, I wish that today.
Okay, happy birthday, Vinny. Give him an on-air shout out.
He's 59 years old now?
69? No, he isn't. 59? 59? Wow, even that's hard to believe.
59, he was born in 1962.
Wow. That makes me feel old.
And, you know, like I said, I remember him fighting as like a 20-some-year-old, and, you know, how wild and great he was and all that. And he's a guy that's like, you know, I'm telling you, he could outrun any of us right now, you know, with like his pace. He said, I saw him in Vegas the other year, and he's walking into that autograph thing, and he's got sunglasses on, and a big-ass cup of coffee. I'm like, that guy was partying all night.
Yeah. Well, we got one more wrestling story I want to mention. I don't have the people's names in front of me, but I did read about this. There was a big incident over the weekend in an independent wrestling show where the guy has been totally suspended from ever fighting in this organization ever again. But apparently there was supposed to be a gimmick where he was attacking the ref, and he brought out some type of screwdriver and stabbed the guy in the head. There was a lot of blood, and it was real. The guy got hit in an artery. He had to go to the hospital and get all stitched up and everything, and yeah, it was crazy. So sometimes the fake shit gets real. The ref did not know that was coming, so yeah, they fired the guy. But anyway, we got a couple more boxing matches. Go ahead.
There was a guy named New Jack about a few years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a couple other things like that. But this was a wild one. They got video of it too. Cell phone video where they watched it. It's pretty brutal. I mean, they literally they dragged the ref out of the ring at one point by his ankles, and leaves like a big smear, like a mop full of blood when they pull him out. And yeah, it happened real fast, but still, the guy had to know he was doing something wrong. But anyway, we got some Minnesota boxing to talk about on Saturday at the Armory. Boy, this one should be televised. 5-0 David Morrell at super middleweight's the main event. He's fighting for the WBA World Super Middleweight title against Atlanta's Fox, who is 28-2-1. And super lightweight Richardson Hitchens in the co-main event, fighting Malik Hawkins. Hitchens is 12-0. Hawkins is 18-1. And Jose Valenzuela at lightweight, 10-0, fighting Austin Dulé, who's 14-2. Albert Puello, 19-0. Seems like everybody in the left-hand column is undefeated. Fighting V. Sean Owens, who is 13-2. And then Hector Luis Garcia at super featherweight, 13-0, fighting Isaac Avalar, who's 17-3. And super middleweights, Anthony Sims Jr., 21-1, fighting Manny Woods, who is 17-14-1. Some pretty good fights on that card for a non-televised card. And then our boy, our last guest, Gilberto Ramirez, 42-0, looking for the big 4-3. Fighting Unieski Gonzalez, who is 21-3. And the co-main event there, this is from San Antonio, Texas. Lamont Roach, 21-1 with one draw, fighting Rene Alvarado, who is 32-10. That's for the NABA super featherweight title. And Marlon Esparza, flyweight, 10-1, fighting Annabelle Ortiz, who is 31-4 for the WBC World Female Flyweight title. And super lightweights, Luis Alberto Hernandez Ramos, 21-1. His parents didn't get the memo either. One of those should be Jesus. Fighting Ruslan Madiev, who is 13-2. And then we got minimum weight. Sanisa Estrada, 21-0, fighting Maria Macheo Santizo, who is 9-0, for the WBA World Female Minimum Weight title. You don't see that very often. You don't see a lot of two female fights on one card like that very often. Female minimum weight title. Some tiny women. Anyway, welterweights, Raul Curiel, 10-0, fighting Kendo Castaneda, 17-4 for the NABF welterweight title. And another somebody's those got to go. We got Morales versus Garcia at featherweight, 15-0 Victor Morales versus 12-0 Rudy Garcia for the World Boxing Council International featherweight title. Last fight card of the weekend is from Jefferson, Wisconsin. Nothing really that great on here, but how about this for a main event? Light heavyweight William Langston, 5-2, fighting Josu Obando, who is 32-2. And it's for the USA Wisconsin State Light Heavyweight title. Out there in Jefferson. So we got a couple more stories to mention. Jake Paul has now said, even before he gets the rematch going with Tyron Woodley, that there is 100% chance he will compete in MMA. So, that's what he's saying. Also, before I forget, going back to that Lomachenko fight, I don't know if you saw the highlights at all, but if you can see the actual fight. But after, there was a certain point in the fight where Vasily had Richard hurt, and he was pointing at the corner like you need to stop the fight. And he ended up letting the guy finish the round because of it. Like, not only did the guy get out of trouble, but he was able to kind of come back in that round and show the ref that he could still hang. And it didn't end up costing Vasily, but if I was one of his trainers, boy, I would have lit into him for that, because you're not the ref, you're not the other guy's corner, you're there to fight, and I don't care how cruel it sounds. This is the hurt game. You're gonna hurt people. Like, if you're not ready to hurt people, just you shouldn't be boxing. So I a lot of people might have thought it was classy. I thought it was dumb. Because you're opening yourself up for more damage that way. Not only him, because you're dragging it out, and you're making it worse for him, because you're giving him a chance to get back into the fight when you should be waiting in there and ending it. It's like, it's kind of a hard thing to understand unless you fought, but sometimes showing mercy is beating the guy to the point where the ref stops it. Let the ref step in and stop it. Don't be pointing at the guy's corner and acting like this is all a big circus or a show. It was just too much flashiness, like attitude I saw in him, like, oh, I'm the best, and you need to stop it before I kill this guy. It wasn't anything like that. He wasn't landing shots that would even knock the guy out. It was just like stunning him at certain points. Like, he wasn't. I can't say how hard the punches were from watching him, but the guy was just getting rattled, and he was walking into punches at that point. So, even if I was in that guy's corner, I wouldn't throw in the towel just because he's telling me to. His opponent is telling me to. Like, screw you, You don't tell us what to do. So, yeah, I don't know if there was anything really significant written about that whole incident, but I don't know if he took much criticism for it, but I think he should learn that lesson that, if you're going to be a championship fighter, you need to have killer instinct to the point where you want to hurt that guy and get him out of there. You don't want to friggin' look at the corner and say, hey, help this guy out. It's all well and good if you're doing that, like, after the bell of the round. You look over at the corner and you say, you going to let this continue? That's one thing. But if in the fight, as it's happening, while you're supposed to be throwing punches, you turn and you make just a hand gesture, and that was just like, what the hell is going on? It's just, I don't know, making a big deal out of it. But I thought it was, kind of not only bad for him strategy-wise and development-wise, but just a bad look for the sport itself, because this is a guy that's supposed to be the best out there, one of the best in the division, obviously, and he's main eventing, and he's kind of making it look like it's a work or something, like it's all an act. I don't know, that just didn't seem like a big deal at the time, but after I thought about it and looked at it, I just thought it was like kind of like an asshole move. But, we know you're good, Vasily. You don't have to look like, make it look like you're embarrassing the guy by harassing his corner. Just keep doing what you're doing, fight the fight.
Well, yeah, and it wasn't a total mismatch like when Larry Holmes was finishing off Ali.
Yeah.
He looked over at the referee, but it was obvious. Ali was in very bad shape, and I think Holmes showed some mercy to Marvin Frazier. And so that, and Holmes was never one of my favorite fighters, but I'll give him credit for that, and I don't think he was wrong. And the point about Loma that it just wasn't. Yeah, he was winning every round, and he knocked him down, but it wasn't that kind of damage. I don't think.
Yeah, anyway. Big heavyweight fight coming up in March next year. Looks like Dillian White and Tyson Fury are going to sign up to go at it. And right now, the big butting heads obstacle is the monetary split. Fury's team is arguing that White is entitled to no more than an 80-20 split. And Cardiff's
That's probably true.
75,000 seat
right.
stadium is going to be the ideal location according to both camps. But anyway, that's where it is.
I have to feel bad for Otto that he had the White fight canceled because White got injured, and yeah. So I have to, and a little bit of shouting for it with that one. So what does White want? Have you heard about what White wanted? And I haven't.
I have not. No, he probably does not have good management and
probably
a good PR team.
45 maybe. Yeah.
He's probably got.
You're like the mandatory contender, but you're not the champ. And the thing is, here's where the big part is: it's who's going to bring that fight. So, for argument's sake, say Dillian White would fight, another championship caliber fighter. It could be not like a Deontay Wilder, not like an Anthony Joshua, not like a Tyson Fury, but another a good, for argument's Parker, who's a good championship level fighter, maybe a tier below. How much would he get for that fight? So even if 20% of a fight with Fury would probably be more than 50% of a fight with like a guy like Joseph Parker.
No, it's true.
Well, on another note, we're going to cross over to MMA for a second. We have some breaking news on John Jones. He has struck a plea deal. Got another get-out-of-jail-free card. The former UFC light heavyweight champion had a domestic violence charge against him dismissed on Tuesday. In exchange, he pled no contest to a misdemeanor charge of destruction of property with a value of $25 to $250, according to court documents. The news was first reported by TMZ. Along with a court condition to stay out of trouble, Jones was ordered to pay $750 restitution to the victim and get counseling for anger management. And,
right. That's a tough. You know how to get a guy.
slap
Wow,
on the wrist.
I didn't be standing in front of that judge.
Yeah.
Jeez, what a joke.
Yeah. So, and the victim is his longtime girlfriend, so I don't know how they're going to verify that he gave her the $750. But that's going to go very far. Unreal. And this is my favorite story of the week. This came out on the MMA alerts today from Reuters. This would be great in America. I mean, we can talk about all the matchups we could have that would decide some issues. But this article is called "Rough Politics in Brazil," and apparently there's some mayoral candidates down there who have agreed to fight out their differences in an MMA match. And actually reminds me of a true story about the Fertittas back in the day, the brothers Lorenzo and Frank the Third there. They had it actually in their contract at one point that if they had a disagreement, they could settle it with a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu match. Never heard of anything else like that in any other sport or situation. I don't think it was for the UFC. I think it was actually for the Station Casino situation. Anyway. So yeah, I would love to see Nancy Pelosi and what's his name? The old guy, the turtle dude, Mitch McConnell.
Oh my God.
An MMA fight. Oh, you can't do the battle of the sexes there two at the same time. Oh, that'd be unfair. Anyway, I'm trying to get this article to come up, but apparently my computer is too old for it. Keeps disappearing as soon as it pops up. Here it is. Okay. There we go. Okay. So, article says, politics is often rough and tumble in the Brazilian Amazon, but in one small city, two mayoral candidates literally came to blows over the weekend during a bruising election campaign. The incumbent mayor of Borba, a city of about 41,000 people upriver from Amazona's state capital, Manaus, is known for appearing in political ads with boxing gloves on. So amid a long-standing feud with a former city councilor running for his position, Mayor Simeo Peixoto challenged his opponent, Reno de Silva, to a mixed martial arts match. Silva, widely known by his nickname Marico, accepted, and the two went blow to blow in an MMA-style match on Saturday. There were no knockout punches, but the judges deemed the mayor victorious. Hundreds of residents crowded around the octagonal ring in the local gymnasium to cheer on their candidate. It was unclear if the results of the match will have any effect on the results of the election. In October, Marico and Peixoto will go head-to-head at the ballot box. So, yeah. It seems like we might have an actual, not really a physical fight, but big mental fight between the entire core of the Democrats that want to pass Joe Biden's bill and Joe Manchin, who was actually talked this week about whether he would go if asked to leave the party and go to the Republicans. Saw that on the news this week. I would say, oh boy, they must really be trying to get him out. Unreal. Anyway, well, I guess we will talk to John Cameron next week. I know it's a struggle for him a little bit with the time difference. So, thankfully we're fluid and we don't have a rigid schedule here, so we could bump that up and figure that out later. Get him on next week. But I think we covered a lot of ground here, and I don't think I'm forgetting anything. I'll probably remember something 5 minutes from now, but
well, that's the way it always works.
I guess that's it for us. Until next week.
All right, guys. Enjoy the fights.
All right. See you guys.